Today we're going to talk about Joseph, Mary's husband, the earthly father, or maybe you'd call it surrogate father or step-in father of Jesus. He was Jesus' representative father. And we're going to read about him, and we're going to start with the genealogy. There was a prophecy that said Jesus had to be born in the line of Judah, the line of David. And Joseph was related to the house that was in the line of David. Mary was too, as far as I know, actually, but she's not listed in the genealogy. He's listed in the genealogy. So the beginning and end of the genealogy goes Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. The record of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac, the father of Jacob. And Jacob, the father of Judah and his brothers. Judah was the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez was the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Ram. Goes down a bit, then it talks about how Jesse had David, and David had Solomon, and there was the whole Bathsheba and Uriah thing in that mentioned in the genealogy. But verse 16, Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, by whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. So there's all those generations. From Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, and we don't know their ages, but he was significantly older most likely, before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man, I know it just said that they were engaged, that being engaged was almost considered marriage then. Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man and not wanting to disgrace her, planned to send her away secretly. But when he had considered this, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child who has been conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. Now all this took place to fulfill what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall be with child and shall bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means God with us. And Joseph awoke from his sleep and did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took Mary as his wife, but kept her a virgin until she gave birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus. Now going to Matthew chapter 2, 13 to 16. Now when they had gone, that's the Magi, they were there, they talked to Herod, he told them go to Bethlehem, find this baby/child, and they did find the baby/child, and they worshiped the baby/child, and then they had a dream, don't go back to Herod, it's dangerous. Now when they had gone, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. So as far as we are even aware, so far this is his second dream, life-changing dream. Now when they had and said, get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him. So Joseph got up and took the child and his mother while it was still night, and left for Egypt. He remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. Then when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged, and sent and slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem and all its vicinity, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the Magi. This is totally just a side note. I was looking up some distances today, and Bethlehem to Jerusalem, it's a fairly short trip. It's about 6 miles. So he slew all the children in Bethlehem and in the vicinity. I wouldn't be surprised if that included Jerusalem. Comment if you would like. But I did, and I also found out he came from Galilee in Nazareth, right? Nazareth to Bethlehem was approximately 90 kilometers, I believe, something like that. It was a long ways. I thought if they had to travel 5.6 miles, it'd be like, yeah, that's a lot for a pregnant lady on a donkey. But they didn't just travel 5.6 miles. They had to travel probably for days and days and days on end. Okay, totally side note. But when Herod died, this is verse 19, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead." So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Then after being warned by God in a dream, he left for the regions of Galilee and came and lived in a city called Nazareth. I said that backwards before. Galilee isn't in Nazareth. Nazareth is in Galilee. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophets. He shall be called a Nazarene. There's a little bit of mention in Luke about Joseph as well, but it's mostly the same as what I read to you. So why was Joseph important? Like, really, Mary is mentioned quite a bit in the Gospels, as you would think someone's mom might be, the mom of a single guy especially. So Mary's mentioned a little bit, and also Joseph probably died pretty early on because he was, I think, way older than Mary, or maybe something else. Maybe he just had a heart attack when he was 47. And anyway, after Jesus was 12 years old, when they went to visit the temple, Joseph isn't mentioned ever again in the Bible. And Mary's made to sound like a widow. So anyway, the point is, she's not even mentioned a lot, but Joseph is mentioned much less. So he's probably not first and foremost, and I'm not even saying he should be, but first and foremost in our minds. But he was important. He was extremely important. For starters, Jesus' life would not have existed without him. I'm not talking about a biological father creating a baby, but there's several ways his life hinged on Joseph, relied on Joseph. First, we're going to start with his lineage. And there were other people from the line of David that were alive in Jesus' time, that Jesus could have been born into the lineage of them. But Joseph had to be godly, he had to be trusting, he had to be obedient, he had to be forgiving, or not forgiving in the way that Mary did anything wrong, but forgiving, because I can't think of a better word, forgiving in the way that he actually believed that Mary did something wrong. So in a way, you could consider that forgiving. He had to be that person. So insightful, discerning, he had to be one of those. And he had to be able to believe in messages from God that we wouldn't consider maybe traditional or normal, but he had to. So what the Bible speaks on most about Joseph, if you combine those things, is the 3 dreams he had. So in this little tiny bit that they speak about him, it speaks about 3 dreams. Of course, this is interesting to me. I like dreams. But so he had a dream. Don't think the worst of Mary. Just go with it. Just trust. He did. He took Mary as his wife. And then he had to travel that far with a pregnant wife on a donkey. And he obviously, that took some responsibility, and that took responsibleness, and that took some maturity, and that took leadership, and that took him having a willingness to put her, let's say, above him. And then that dream about Herod. So first, when he had dreams, either the angel could have spoken directly to him, or could have said, "Take Jesus to Egypt because Herod wants to kill him." But also it's possible that there was some symbolism, like in a lot of dreams, and Joseph had to do some figuring. So that took some effort, but that took some discernment. So Joseph had discernment just to listen to a dream, and he had to have trust and obedience just to listen to a dream. But whenever the angel came and said, Herod's dead now, when he came the 3rd time, said, "Herod's dead now, so you can go back to Israel." And he was like, and he knew that Herod was dead, but his son, Joseph knew his son, consider the fact that his son was reigning now, and he had to use wisdom in discerning that it might not be safe to go, even though the angel had said Israel, you can go to Israel, but he's like, it might not be safe to go right back to Jerusalem or to Bethlehem, because we're just assuming they might have put down roots there for a bit. Who knows? But I'm just saying, those places, he said, don't go back to some other place you've been, go to Nazareth. And that's why he chose to go to Nazareth, and they lived there. So he had the discernment. He was the reason that Jesus made it through his first 3 years of life or whatever, first few years of life. So I don't think Joseph is superhuman, but I think he was pretty awesome. When we think of Jesus, and when we think about Jesus, and when we think about Mary, when we think about the shepherds, when we think about the Magi, when we think about all of these big characters in Jesus' early birth, it probably would have amounted to none of it would have taken place without Joseph, because they could have killed Mary because she would have looked like she slept with another guy before she got married. But Joseph was a decent man. He was just going to divorce her quietly, and then he listened to the angel because he saved Jesus' life through there, because he found first, I'm going out of order. He found the inn, and he took her to the inn, and he took care of her while she was having a baby and put him in the manger. So just the first few hours of Jesus' life. And then all the dreams from the angels, taking him to Egypt, it was over and over. So let's remember Joseph too.